A gap between the wall and the tub of about 3/8 and I'm putting a nice bead on there. I'm just going to go around the horn here.
Alright, she's on.
Alright. Hello, welcome to Tile Coach. I'm Isaac Ostrom. I'm a licensed tile contractor here in Northern California. And thank you for being with us today. I'm glad you're here because I'm going to show you something that I get a lot of questions on. We're doing a tub surround and we want to tile it, yet the tub isn't fitting perfectly into this space. So tubs are made to, most of them are made to go into a 5-foot rough opening. And a lot of times, especially with these acrylic tubs, they have kind of a thick flange on there. And if the opening's not perfectly 5 feet, it's going to be really hard to either get in or you're going to have gaps on either side. So I get this question a lot about what to do when you have a gap. And now look at this gap that we have right here. We have a gap between the wall and the tub of about 3/8, and coming out to the edge of the flange we have almost 5/8. Actually it is 5/8. So we got this gap that we got to deal with. We can't just put our tile right here because then this tub flange will show. So we're actually going to be building our wallboard out, and I always set the wallboard on top of the flange. You don't want to carry it out past to the bottom of the tub. You want to get your board to the top of the tub flange, and then we'll treat it from there. So in this instance, another thing we could do is float the walls, but since we got these acrylic tubs, I really don't like floating on them. It just takes a lot of prep and you always run the risk of scratching them. The old cast iron tubs we used to do a lot, like the Kohlers, those were a piece of cake. You almost could never hurt those. But these guys, these acrylics, they can be pretty soft. So we're not going to float it. We're going to use Hydro Ban Board, Laticrete Hydro Ban, and I'll show you how we get this done. So first thing I did is I'm treating it like a floor. So I want to find out where my high spots and my low spots are. So I went around with my level and I figured out what the wall is doing. And I do this with floors too when I'm setting the floor. I want to do as much prep work as I can to avoid when you're setting the tile. So I'm going to try to get these flat. I got this belly of an 1/8 inch right here, so we're good on the top and the bottom. And all through this back wall I got an 1/8. This whole side we need to build out, so I'm going to butter that out. And then on this wall, we're going to be tight up top, 1/8 right here, 1/4 inch down at the bottom. So I know what's going on with my walls, and so as I wet shim these boards, I'm going to know how much mud to put where. So that's important before you start. Know what your walls are doing, know how much material you got to get on there so you're not guessing. So I got my first board ready to go, and what I'm using is Multi-Max Light. I got my Multi-Max Light mixed up, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to coat the back. So we're going to do a wet shim, and I'm going to end up using fasteners on it too. So we have, now you may not need to use fasteners, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. I talked to my Laticrete rep, and he's like, well, it'll work, but to be under warranty, we need to fasten the board into the studs. Unless it's concrete block or masonry or a cement wall, then you can just thin set the board to the wall. But he said, well, with drywall, it would work, right? You know it would work if we thin setted the board without screws, but he said, technically you're supposed to use the fasteners, so we're gonna do that too. Okay, so I know that we're good up at the top. We got this belly in the middle, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to use, if I want to get an 1/8 inch build out, I'm going to use a 1/4 inch notch trowel. So that's basically how the trowels work. If I want a finished thickness of an 1/8 inch, I'm going to use a 1/4 inch notch because by the time you squish it down and collapse the ridges, that's going to give you half of your notch. So if you got a 1/4 inch, that's going to give you an 1/8. If you have a 3/8, that's going to give you half of 3/8, whatever that is. And 1/2 inch is going to give you a 1/4. So that's what I'm looking at. If I need an 1/8 inch, I'm going to go ahead and start there. So I'm just going to go in the middle. And I also mark my studs up here, so I know when I put my fasteners in, I know where the studs are. niche piece. If I can get it out. So at the back of the niche, that's just the adjacent room's drywall. So I'm going to go ahead and just butter this guy up. Back. We already have the sides done. Actually, we have the sides done with Go Board. I didn't know I was going to use this Hydro Ban board today, but I figured, what the heck, let's give it a try. This is my first time using it. I have to say I'm really impressed with it. I'll go into more detail maybe on another video and talk about the pros and cons of all of the different wall boards we have, including Curdy board, Go Board, Dent Shield. So there we go. So my first board is going to go up. Maybe I'll taper it a little bit here. It's only an 1/8 inch, but so I'm just gonna kind of taper it a little bit, take a little of that mud off. Down here, need to build that up there. My first board going in. Oh, that's the top. That's not the right board. There's the right board. Okay, so when you're doing a wet shim, I just get my board in there, and now I'm going to take my level and see where we're at, and we're perfect. So by adding the thin set right here and none down there, it took that 1/8 inch belly out of the wall. Check it both ways, and it's good. So I don't need to worry about like 100% coverage behind this, because again, it's basically just like a shimming mechanism. And if you think about it, this board can go right on studs, right? So technically, if I have support every 16 on center, it would be the same as putting it on a stud. So you don't need to make sure you got full coverage behind the board. As a matter of fact, if you're going over concrete block or masonry, I would just do dollops. 16 on center, maybe 8 to 10 inches apart, and smash the board on there, and that would be it. No other fastening needed. But so I'm going to do the same thing up here. I'm going to put maybe a little taper layer up here. This Multimax light, it's really nice. It stands up really well, and it's really tacky. I mean, it's very, very, very sticky mortar, and it's good stuff. To me, it's like a cross between a thin set and a glue, but one of my favorite products. And I wasn't a fan at first. At first, I didn't like how messy it was, because it does. You can see it kind of flings. It's like working with drywall mud, so It doesn't quite act the same as thin set, but once you get used to it, it's actually pretty good. Okay, so I got my top piece. Same thing, take my level, good there, good there, good there. So that's good, so I got the back wall wet shim, that's ready to go. Now the side wall, so our side wall going to need a lot of build out. Like I said, I'm looking for about 1/4 inch here, so I'm going to try to get a nice healthy 1/2 inch notch on this wall and then get the board in there. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to screw it off today. We'll see. Because right, if you're wet shimming and you got wet mortar, you sink your screw, what's it going to do? It's going to suck that board in. But I might be able to go gentle with the screws and just kind of barely get them in there. I'll just see how it reacts, but first things first, get this thing wet shimmed. A lot of mud going on this wall. When you're using a 1/2 inch notch on the wall, like you might want to just circle over a little bit here. When you're using be careful of the focus because it's going to try to grab focus like on this, or just watch it, you know.
Alrighty.
When you're using a 1/2 inch notch, there's a lot of mortar going up on the wall. I just flung some on my neck, I can feel that. So I just try to get the mud in place. You know, I'm not worried about combing it out perfectly. I'm just trying to get it up on the wall, and that'll help save time. And then I'll go back and comb it. You know, like I said, a 1/2 inch notch is gonna lay a 1/4 inch of mud flat. And this wall was plumb. This wall was already plumb, so it's kind of a shame that I need to do this. But that tub gap here is just too big. I know you're probably already asking the question because I get it a lot. Well, if you're building out, if you're putting board on top of it, how are you going to trim the edge? Well, I got a lot of videos on that, but my favorite way is like a miter cap. I don't know what we're going to do here, but you can miter, miter trim piece. You can use Schluter jolly, and then plug in behind. I'll talk a little more bit about that later. But I have videos on that, and I'll put the link in the description. And just so you know, I am not, I'm putting this Laticrete board up here. I'm not sponsored by Laticrete in any way. I went by Bedrosians and bought all this today, just like you would. I try as much as possible to keep my channel free from any sponsorships or anything like that. True Work, the people I wear the clothes for, they give me free clothes. So, but I think that's different. Clothing, The tile stuff, I really want to keep it separate because I want to stay unbiased in all the products I use. So, yeah, I went by Bedrosians and got this Laticrete, but I'm really impressed with the board. It just seems stronger. Well, I know it's way stronger than Curdy board. It doesn't have the fiberglass the Go board has in it. I was actually scoring it and snapping it similar to how you cut a drywall panel. Lightweight is a bonus, of course. And I think it might even be cheaper than Curdy board. I don't know what the exact price is, but you know, Laticrete, they just have, I mean, they're a thin set company, so they have thin set, they have grout, they have liquid applied membranes, they have everything, where Schluter, you know, they haven't got on board with the liquid membrane yet, which I'm sure they will at some point, but they don't have it yet. And so Laticrete is also, believe it or not, it's an American company. It was started as a family business here in the States. Great company, they treat their employees really well, I know that. They actually invented thin set. They were the first manufacturer to make thin set. And so they have a thin set background. So it's not like Schluter where they just happen to come along and throw a thin set out there. Laticrete has such an expansive line of thin sets for all different applications. And then again, you can use modified. You know, they specify that you can use modified thin set where Schluter says you can't for some reason. That'll change, trust me, because all set is modified. So everybody who's ever told me that, I get those comments about modified thin set, you know, it's garbage, you know, all set is modified. So now that I got my thin set up, I'm gonna go ahead and just start combing it and taking off the extra. Somebody trying to get in here?
Yeah, somebody, I don't know who it was.
Probably wrong, yeah. Probably got a tool in here.
You want to take a pause and see what he wants?
Ronnie?
Hey, do you guys need something?
I was just gonna throw some mud right there where I got this mud. Is that cool?
Yeah, jump in here, Ron. So yeah, so you can see once I got the mortar up, it's easier to comb the thin set and not get it everywhere. So I'm keeping a good 1/2 inch notch. You notice I'm keeping my trowel at 45. I'm not flattening it out. That's going to give me a nice even bed of thin set. Good there. Actually, Ronnie, I'm going to have to.
No.
So on that leg, I'm going to put this right here.
Alright, she's on.
Okay. Okay, so this one I'm just kind of gently pushing in there. I don't want to push it in too far because we got to stay out on the tub lip here. And I'll get my 4-footer. My 6.5 is just a little too big for this.
she's on.
So yeah, so these are the True Work T3 work pant, and one of my favorite things about these pants is that they're water resistant. And like if you were doing this with jeans or even Carhartt, you know, they're cotton duck, you know, your pants would just get soggy, they're uncomfortable. So whenever I get thin set on these, it's really nice. I just wash them off. They're just really durable. They're and also just comfortable. I mean, they're just nice and comfy. You know, if you're stretching, they're nice. I mean, there's just they're just a great pant. I'm really happy with like these new materials they're using instead of the old cotton Carhartts that I used to wear all the time. So if you do want these, I'll put the link in the description. And if you use Tile Coach 15, it'll save you 15%, and it'll also give me a little kickback on it. So if you are in the market for work pants, consider doing that. Use that code and it'll help me out. Okay, so I got 2 walls up and I'm ready for the last one. So again, I marked here, I'm going to be good up at the top. 1/4 inch notch here because I only need an 1/8 inch, and a 1/4 inch, so this will be a 1/2 inch. So I'll just butter up accordingly. I guess I'll start with the 1/2 inch. So yeah, I was planning on floating these walls, and you know, as far as like time, this probably would have been just as fast for me to float. It would have been harder work, which I don't mind, but it would have been messier, and again, run the risk of getting mud and everything all over the tub and scratching it. And you know, the foam is really nice. I get it. And with the Hydro Ban Board, it feels so much better to me. It's just really nice.
You still here?
Yeah. Hey guy, you want to say hi to the YouTube world?
No, not really.
Alright.
Well,
We
too
won't
bad
be
you're
doing that.
here. If you're in here.
What are you doing? Just leveling it now?
Yeah, we call it wet shimming. I had to add more mud here.
Are you going to put another board on there?
Yeah, I'm putting more board on there.
Oh.
Because your walls are crooked, guy.
Are they?
Oh my goodness. Did you build this house?
No. I told you the story already, right?
Yeah. As a contractor.
Yeah, and he just buys
He kind of-
property
Mm-hmm.
and puts a house on it. He moved this house here, and then he did whatever he did.
How do you move? How is that? So he found this house in another neighborhood.
Yeah, everybody he swears he didn't do that, but everybody I've talked to says that yeah, this thing wasn't here.
Well, yeah, it's
He built the foundation and set it on top of it, and then he added to it. You know.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because that's what I said. Your subfloor, the way they use the 2x6s and the girders, that was only done in the 70s, 60s, and 70s. So, yeah, I think it was an old house, and he moved it.
No, but all the outlets are different. And the switches are different, and they're not even put in. Some are upside down, and some of them are right side up.
Yeah, it just seems like it would be cheaper to build a house.
He just
than
had
to
leftover
move it.
stuff from all the other stuff he got, and then he just used whatever he could do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, it seems like it would be cheaper because 2x4s aren't real expensive. Thinking of how you even move a crane and big truck.
You think the house was smaller when he
I
moved
had
it?
an uncle that bought a piece of property, and he moved a house over there.
Oh, really? So it can be done,
I
huh?
was a little kid, though. I didn't pay enough attention. But
Well, I know they moved the manufactured homes. Those are, where they have two and they put them together. Do you think that's what this was?
I don't know. But when you put an outlet behind the tub with a live wire that's not even capped, bare copper. Luckily, it didn't have a cast iron tub.
Yeah. Yeah, so when
Woo,
we
that
were
would've been
doing the
bad.
demo, there was a live Romex wire, right?
Yeah.
It was just sitting there
With
bare
a
copper.
blue box and everything.
Yeah.
And it's
Just
just the
sitting
wire was hanging out with bare copper.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And then you seen the mold it had, right? You fixed that.
Yeah. Got that mold out of there.
Guess the wood behind it was okay, huh?
Yeah, it was good.
Clean.
Yeah.
The other stuff you're gonna put on there was like the felt that you put in the
Yep.
shower, the other one, only it's got
Yep.
a spacer in it.
Yep, just comes as a 1/2 inch board. We needed it to get out past that tub lid.
I get it.
Okay, so I got,
Looks like you're gonna need a step stool.
no, guy,
It'll go all the way to the roof. How are you gonna reach that far?
I'll show you.
Step on the tub.
Okay.
I got my soft shoes on today.
I'll leave you to it.
Alright, thanks guy. Okay, so yeah, so I got 1/2 inch notch here. About this line is it starts to go back up, so I'm going to go with my 1/4 inch notch. Do the same thing. The homeowner guy, he's a pretty good guy. He's one of those guys that wants to be around, and we've been here for what, about 4 weeks, and he'll just come in. He just wants to be involved, and he's a really good guy. I like him a lot. Guy is a good guy.
You want some close up of trowel in that Multimax?
Yeah, let's get a little bit of that. Again, when I first get it up there, I just wanted to make contact with the mortar. So I'm just getting it up, getting good contact so the board stays where it's at. And I've never tried this with like cement board. I know people do it, but the foam board, as you can see, once you get it up into the thin side, it just wants to stay. It's not heavy, so it doesn't want to sag or move around. I think this one goes up here. This one goes this way. Last but not least, this little guy right here. And I'm leaving a gap here because my tile's gonna finish flush with the corner bead. So we need to have our tile, we need to have our board stop 1/2 inch from where I want it to finish. So you can see here, we're able to make that nice and plumb, and that was by building out here and going thinner up at the top. So it should continue up, and it does. You can see we're nice and plumb up there. So we're basically floating our walls without floating our walls. That's why they call it wet shimming. And most of the time this is done, when you usually see this, and I have a video on it, it's a really old kind of crappy video that I'm not really proud of, but it was like back in 2012, where I wet shimmed right up directly onto the studs. So that's another option. Obviously you don't need drywall behind this. They say you can wet shim right to the studs. So yeah, I don't know how long that took, but what do you think, Luke? Half hour, 45 minutes?
Wasn't long now.
Yeah, so got the board all up. Probably take a little break, clean up the thin set, and come back and see if I can screw it off. If not, we'll just screw it off tomorrow. That's good, Luke.
Alright.
Ready? You rolling?
It's rolling.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I got these 2-inch Laticrete screws because you know, I need a little bit longer because we're going through another layer of wallboard. So I got 2-inchers. The nice thing about this board is you don't need to use washers like with Curdy board. The pattern is 12 inches on center and just on the 16-inch studs. So that's not a whole lot of screws. 12-inch pattern is really doable, and no washers. So that's really cool. That's really cool. So I'm gonna start screwing off at the top. My mud is still a little wet, but I think it's gonna work out pretty good. So start screwing it. Okay, I marked my studs. It's nice that they got the little dots on the board too. 12 inches. I wonder if these dots look like they're 2 inches. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, right there. Yeah, it's not sucking it in, so that's good. So having that full bed of thin set behind the wall helped us out because it's not compressing. Even though that thin set's not dry, it can't go anywhere, it can't escape. So I'm able to screw my board off without it sucking into the wall. And you don't need to be overly aggressive with the screw, just so it creates a little dimple and it doesn't interfere when you're setting tile. Beautiful. All right, we're going to continue screwing this off, and then it'll be ready to put some band in the corners, and I'm going to show you how to waterproof between the board and the lip of the tub. That's really important. You don't want to miss it.
Alright, now it started.
Okay, so we're going to be putting the band on. This is a really important step for good waterproofing here, is to use the band between the board and the tub lip. So the first thing I did was tape it off because we're going to be using this Hydro Ban adhesive and sealant. This is like Curdy Fix, And so that's gonna adhere the band to the flange of the tub, and then I'm gonna be using thin set above it where the band is on the wall. So it's gonna go like this. So I'm gonna go ahead and spread my thin set first. Again, this is the same stuff, just Multi-Max Light. Using a 3/16 V-notch trowel. That is my trowel of choice. If you have any more questions on trowel sizing, I got a really good video. I'll put that in the description as well to see what trowel you need to be using for what application. So when I'm doing Curdy band or Hydro Ban band, I'm using a 3/16 V-notch trowel. So you can go ahead and cut that, Luke. Yeah. Okay, so I got my thin set up on the wall, the Multi-Max Light. Now I'm using the Hydro Ban adhesive and sealant, and I'm going to put a nice bead on the bottom of the flange here. Actually going to put it in real nice in here too. And it's real important to get the tape on the tub, because if you've ever worked with this stuff, if it gets on something, it is really messy. So I'm putting a nice bead on there. I'm going to go all the way around with this. So these sealants aren't really meant in this application to waterproof. They're more to adhere the band to the lip. Because right with gravity, there's no water that's going to go up that way. We don't have any capillary action materials that's going to draw moisture up or water up. So it's basically attaching that flap to the tub. So go around the horn here. And these membranes will stretch pretty nicely too. Oops. Especially this Hydro Ban. So I'm not using a pipe seal or anything. I'm just cutting a little hole around there. Let's see here. Short here. This here. Here we go. Okay, Okay, so while this is all still workable, I'm going to take my putty knives and embed membrane into, and this one's pretty sharp, I don't like that. Embed that membrane into the wall really good. I'm just using my finger to adhere the bottom of the band into the tub flange. And this Multi-Max light, if you've used Curdy before, and if you've never used Multi-Max light with Hydro Ban sheet membrane, I would just say give it a try. Again, I don't take anything from promoting anyone's products. Just as a help, I would say try it. And I think once you try it, you'll be like me and go, wow. Because I think it's because the Multi-Max light doesn't have sand in it. It's almost like a glue. It feels like I'm putting a glue up, and it just sticks into the membrane really well. And it lays much flatter, less wrinkles than Curdy. It just lays on really nice. So yeah, so I got the bottom band on. I'll go ahead and fill in these gaps with sealant. It's a pretty crummy caulking gun here, but I didn't bring my tools. This is Ronnie's. So. Beggars can't be choosers. But listen to this thing. Hardly anything comes out. So this is this is an important place to make sure you get good sealant in here. You know, when the water hits the tub, it's going to run right down like that, and make sure that's sealed up real nice.